Okay, now my next little thing is to create an activity for students to do. We don't want to give them too much time either. We're talking like very tight amounts of time. One thing that I have found while asking for an activity from Chat GPT is it immediately decides to try and kind of plan it sometimes 30 minutes to an hour, so it can actually create very long-winded activities. Now, in a class environment, you want to keep them nice and tight. You just want to get things done very quickly. In some cases, as little as 5 minutes. So when I have asked for activities from ChatGPT, it's given me this: a title, a level, duration, and objective. So kind of like a tiny little mini lesson. Now that is fine, okay, that's perfectly okay. But you know, you've got to ask yourself, how long is this going to last in total? The other thing you've got to remember is you're kind of working it into the whole lesson. So if you look at this is going to be an activity that ties together part one and part two, which in itself is 30 minutes in total. So this is a really important thing. So although the activity really is only going to be 5 minutes long, um, I find that Chat GPT creates the whole activity as a kind of mini lesson. So you've just got to be mindful of that. So if you think the discussion, the so talking about what the thing is, demonstrating it, followed by an actual task in itself, then try and work out how many minutes you're going to need to take up to do the whole thing, and ChatGPT will actually then create it in this kind of format. Now, I'm going to try it this way to begin with, but what you can do as well is you can potentially tighten it up a bit by basically, stating sort of a breakdown. But I'm going to try it in this way first to see what gets created. So make sure that I'm on my Java lesson and then pop it in here. And let's see what I end up creating. So getting started with JavaScript, a 30-minute duration. So let's read through exactly what we've got here. You can see here that it says briefly recap prompts, variables, outputs in JavaScript. Discuss the importance of these, which, for the lesson that I will be doing, that's pretty useful. What we're doing then is things like setting up the environment. Now, because this is pegged as an introduction, yes, you probably do have to make sure that everyone's got an editor, everyone's up and running, because if this is your first session, you don't definitely know everyone's up and running. So, you do want to make sure. Okay. Demonstrate the use of prompts, instruct participants to create a simple script that prompts the user and guide them through storing it, utilizing variables. Again, explain the concept of variables, encourage. Now, I'm finding that the problem with this is it's not really giving me an activity, it's just telling me basically what I already know. So what I need to do is I need to ask myself, have I given it correct prompts? Have I done it in a logical way? So just to kind of double check that I have given good prompts, I'm just going to regenerate it and see if it'll give me a more detailed breakdown. So sometimes when you regenerate them, it becomes more concise. See, this is where we're getting into something better. So the first time round, ChatGPT might give you something very generic, not really useful. On this occasion, however, it's giving me something more concise, or at least it appears so on the surface. So we've got introduction, 5 minutes again, explaining what's going on, making sure that they understand how to set up a HTML file. again, that is important, that is essential. Create the JavaScript file, again, a few minutes just to make sure they're doing that. Writing the JavaScript code, so again, 10 minutes walk through. So yeah, we've got through, this is getting started, this is how we set things up in JavaScript. Again, these things are just useful um, to show students. So yeah, walk through this code, instruct them to test it, and have a discussion about it over 5 minutes. So this is a better one. It in some cases anyway. So the only major problem I might have with this is that it's very much a follow the teacher kind of activity rather than an activity for them to do. But if I head back to the actual lesson plan, and I were just to kind of consider part one and part two as almost a single activity. So maybe condense those two that part into a single part with a how to do these things, how they work. Then this is, perfectly good approach to it. And as I said, you can get these. It's all about refinement. You get your overarching concepts together, then you say to yourself, okay, what if we did them all at once? So what I would end up doing here is probably combining these 2 points together, have a single 30-minute activity in the hour, and then very clearly kind of step by step. It's a lot more interactive now, the lesson. Yes, they will be following the teacher, but then they're new to it, so that might be what they need to do. Alternatively, and this might be the other way to approach it, potentially hand these out, so turn those into a worksheet to hand out. So you introduce the topic, you introduce the concept, maybe you show how to do it once in a very simple way, but then give them these tasks. So basically, how to set up HTML, how to set up JavaScript as a worksheet of some description. So basically, just hand them these instructions to go through, and then kind of you could, if you wanted to, maybe remove parts of this, or just mix it up a bit and try and get them to understand it in more detail. So we do have an activity there. I'm going to copy that. So there's one approach to basically creating activities. So again, it's kind of like chunking the lesson into small parts now. I've now got 1.5 hour activity exploring JavaScript, and then when I plan the next activity, we'll be sort of looking at the next part of the lesson basically. But there we go. That's how you can use Chat GPT to create a lesson. My thing to remember is sometimes the first kind of version that it creates is not as good as the second. It's also worth seeing what your third looks like potentially, and you can kind of keep working through them until you find one that fits your audience. You can see this one's a bit different. This is very wordy again, but it basically follows the same structure. So have a good look. You can keep generating it as many times as you need, and until you find that one that you're like, yeah, you know what, that is my activity, that's how I want to do it.